Hello, I'm Dr. Josh Shields, Chief Clinician and founder of Integrative Wellness Centers of Michigan, where we help patients naturally get to the root cause of their health problems with the practice of functional medicine. And I'm so glad that you're here today because if you're like millions of Americans that are out there, you're suffering from hormone imbalance. Now, the problem with hormone imbalance, the way it's treated currently in our medical system, is that it's simply looking at hormones and saying one's high, one's low, and then let's put you on a hormone to correct that imbalance. But they never really discovered what caused the imbalance in the first place. Understand that every hormone in your body is released from a gland or an organ or a tissue, and so it's important to find out what's causing damage to those organs or glands that's impacting the hormonal imbalances. So once you correct what's causing it, and you remove that cause or that irritation, then the hormones can become balanced again naturally, so you're not relying on a medication. On top of that too, with the medications, they're dangerous. They're going to put you at a higher risk for stroke, for cancer, for gallstones, for liver issues. So it's very important that you figure out what you can do naturally before using any of these types of medications or treatments. Now, before we get into the hormones, it's important to understand what they do in our body. And hormones are basically chemical messengers that are released from our organs and glands that are going to communicate with other tissues and organs of the body. So they help maintain this balance or this homeostasis in our body. So when one hormone gets out of balance, it's going to affect all of your other hormones, all of your other tissues, all of your other cells. So you don't just have an estrogen problem, or you don't just have a testosterone problem, or you don't just have a thyroid problem. You have an entire body problem when you have these hormones affected. Your hormones can affect your mood, they can affect your appetite, they can affect the way that you interact with other people, they can affect your sleep, they can affect everything in your life. Not only how you feel, but basically who you are as a being is impacted by these hormones. Now, some of the common symptoms of hormone imbalance that we see are fatigue. You lack motivation. People can lose their hair. They can have digestive issues. They can have menstrual issues like PMS, cramps, bloating. They can have infertility. They can have PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome. They can have fibroids or endometriosis. We also know that patients can have troubles losing weight. They can have weight gain. They can have sleep troubles where they have troubles falling asleep or staying asleep. We also know people that can have skin issues where their skin becomes very dry, or it can be opposite where the skin gets very oily or they're more prone for acne. We also know that people can get frequently sick or ill because their hormones can affect their immune system. We also know that when your hormones are imbalanced, it can cause depression or anxiety. And that's so often mistreated with so many patients. I see they're taking medications for depression, but it turns out once you get the hormones balanced, it can really improve their mood and improve how they feel. So obviously if somebody's feeling better, they're going to be less depressed or less anxious. So getting to the root cause of these problems, like I said, can really help with a lot of these different symptoms that we're seeing. But one of the most common causes of hormone imbalance that we see, and I think it's most it's overlooked, is stress. You know, from the day's modern era with all the gadgets and gizmos and all the distractions, with all the activities our kids are in. My kids, by the way, this weekend have like 7 different events, so we're going to go from here over to there. There's a larger work demand on us, and we're just more exposed to more information, more data than ever, so it can become quite a bit overwhelming. What happens, though, when we go through these stressful events, these emotional moments, our body's going to release a hormone called cortisol. And what's important to understand is that cortisol is released from your adrenal glands. And like I said earlier, when cortisol is released at a high level, it's actually going to impact other hormones because it's actually made from progesterone. So if you're releasing a lot of cortisol, that's going to lower your progesterone levels, and that's going to make your cycles more difficult. It can make them more painful. It can make them longer, heavier. And so that's why a lot of times people are taking prescriptions, hormones, especially birth control, because those are progesterone based. So I've actually heard, I remember I had a patient come to me one time and she told me that she started doing yoga and meditation and it started helping with her hot flashes. And at first I thought she was a little crazy. But what's interesting when you understand it now, if she's reducing her stress levels, if she's reducing and improving her mindset, and how she's coping with stress, it's going to reduce her cortisol levels. As her cortisol levels being produced less, it's going to allow the progesterone levels to come back up. So we're not going to do that progesterone still is what they call this. What's interesting too is if your body's releasing a lot of cortisol, it can actually long-term, it can start to have a negative feedback loop to your thyroid. So now your thyroid's getting slowed down, and now you're starting to gain weight. Now you're starting to have constipation. Now you're starting to lose your hair, and you're wondering why. In many cases, it can be stress. So it's real important to evaluate what are your current stress levels and what are you going through in your life, and maybe this is a part of the problem. One thing before we leave this slide, I think it's important to understand is that We've been told that cholesterol is dangerous, but it's interesting is cholesterol is actually the precursor to every hormone in your human body. So we have seen one other cause that I didn't plan on talking about today though. One other cause of hormonal imbalance can actually be that people's cholesterol is too low because they're avoiding all the fats that are essential to making their hormones, or they're taking statin drugs to lower their cholesterol levels, and now they don't have enough hormones or enough cholesterol to produce the hormones that they need to function properly. So those are some other things to be aware of. The next hormone havocer that we see is sugar. As you know, or maybe you don't know, the average American now eats over 160 pounds of sugar per year. Now that counts just the sugar. That's not counting the complex carbohydrates. For example, like bread or pasta. Those things break down very easily and also transfer and are created into sugar. What happens with that in our bodies, though, is it releases a hormone called insulin. Now with insulin, when that hormone goes up, what it's found to do in men, it actually lowers their testosterone and elevates their estrogen levels. And in women, what they find with elevated insulin is that it reduces their estrogens and actually increases their testosterone. So now they have more androgenic symptoms or more androgenic hormones like testosterone. So now the woman starts to go through male pattern baldness. They can start to grow hair. They can also take on more features of male characteristics. So this is one example of that study. This is found in Pathology of Oncology Research. They found that insulin resistance provokes increased androgen synthesis, which that means is it makes the body make more of these male hormones, this testosterone, these androgens, at the expense of decreasing estrogen production. So who'd ever thought that those Fruit Loops for breakfast, those Cocoa Puffs, or that toast that you ate for breakfast could be causing these hormonal imbalances? And this is one of the most common ones we see. And it's very important that people get tested. For example, they can have their insulin levels tested to find out if their insulin levels are high. Now, typically, most doctors, I think, put that range at like 16 or 24. But in a functional medicine clinic like ourselves, we like to say anything below 8 or less is normal or optimal. Anything above 8 is too high. So it's something to have looked at and be aware of. The next hormone havocer that we're going to talk about is gut dysfunction. I know a lot of you are probably thinking right now, what in the world does my gut have to do with my hormones? And it's actually quite a bit. If you look at this research, this came out of the Journal of National Cancer Institute. And what they found in this study is that conjugated estrogens, that means estrogens that have been taken into your liver, released from your bile duct into your colon, are excreted and they're conjugated by bacterial species in the gut with beta-glucuronidase. This enzyme is supposed to then break down these estrogens. If the enzyme's too high in your body, it's going to lead to estrogen reabsorption into the circulation, and circulating estrogens exert effects on target tissues, including the breast, which stimulate cellular growth and proliferation. So what are they saying here? They're saying that some cases, if you have too much of this enzyme, it's pulling too many of these estrogens from your colon back into the bloodstream, and then those estrogens are going to your breast tissues and can cause growth and proliferation of cells, which means they can cause cancer. Now, have you ever really thought about this, that your gut could contribute to your overall likelihood of developing breast cancer? Not many people do, and that's why it's so important. If you're enjoying this message so far, please like, share, or comment, because millions of people are suffering needlessly because they just don't know this information. So please share this and get this out to more people, because people need to know this. And it seems odd to me that it's never addressed. We have so many people come to our clinic with these hormonal symptoms or imbalances, and we do this stool test in our clinic, and this stool test actually looks and measures the beta-glucuronidase levels. And if it's in the normal range, that's great, because you're supposed to have some that recirculates. But when it's too high, that means that you have too many estrogens that are recirculating, and this can put you at greater risk. What's important not to only test for it, but to retest for it to make sure that you've corrected the problem in the first place. So even if the symptoms go away, I think it's important that we want to retest to say, hey, are these enzymes restored to a normal functional level that's safe for you? So this is a very important test and something to consider seeking care from a functional practitioner near you, or call our clinic. So if you've liked today's information, I want you to know that we have a seminar that's going to go over a lot more information. That seminar is going to be May 18th. It's a Saturday morning. It's at 10:30. We're going to have a link below where you can go on our website and register. And if you happen to be watching this after this May 18th seminar, we'll have a link where you can go to our website and you can download and watch the seminar after we've replayed it this next Saturday, as well as other resources. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Get well, stay well. Take care.